So as I have said before, there are few resources which I'll share only in the live classes. The purpose of this classes is to attend live sessions, to interact with the resource person, to practice solving questions online. Only for those who have some prior commitments, it is okay if on some days you watch the recorded class. But the benefit of attending a live session with the live energy, with people answering questions here or solving doubts on time or learning when the resource person is speaking live is different than watching a recording on YouTube. Okay. So please attend live sessions. Let's start with communication. In communication, there are 5 main topics: models of communication. Now, from models of communication, nowadays hardly any questions are asked. A few times questions have been asked based on whether it is linear model or transactional model, uh, that way. And Shannon-Weaver model, based on that, some questions have been asked. Apart from that, other models you need to know in case they ask a question where some statement is given and they want you to choose out of this which of the models is applicable. Now, it is not possible for anyone to cover all possible models because like I saw a lot of previous year questions in the last 3 years. Previously, the questions used to be very simple and very different. Nowadays, most of the questions are on mass media. Most of them can be categorized into mass media and group communication, followed by types of communication. Very, very rarely a question is asked on barriers to communication. It's a very small topic, but we will still take it. And in case, if you are lucky and you get a question from it, it would be a quick 2 marks for you. Classroom communication, the theory is not much when it comes to classroom communication, but application of what you have learned in teaching aptitude plus what you have learned in communication and a combination of all your teaching experience that you have is something that would go in solving questions of classroom communication. Okay, so these questions could be categorized in teaching aptitude also and in classroom communication also. So that's the biggest chunk of questions, but reading those questions you would probably wonder if they can go for teaching aptitude. After that, the next big chunk, which is clearly communication questions, are all related to mass media in last few years. Especially, you should be aware of what are the trends going on around these days, like what's happening with the internet. And I'm not talking about ICT, okay, not the software, hardware, internet, email part. The way communication happens on social media, on internet, when people comment, what are the things that can happen, what are the technical terms for it, what are the new latest models that have been found or searched. Because some questions from last 2 years, I've taken them in previous year questions practice, are such that I couldn't find any what should I say, reference to that in preparation material of any books or any classes. Such kind of models were asked. There was a question, leadership question from Bill Redden's leadership model, something that no one has heard of ever. And I don't know why it was asked. The answer was very clearly available on Google, but I couldn't see any competitive exam preparation considering that as a question. So that is what is happening. That's a part of group communication. For mass media, you need to be very aware of television, news channels, the impact that they are having on people, the good and the bad, the pros and the cons, and a few technical terms related to it. Okay, so that is what is communication. We'll start with models of communication. Um, we'll take it a bit fast because it does not hold a lot of weightage. But then those terms are essential because you need to know them in order to solve questions which are related to even mass media or group communication. Because if you don't know the basics, if you don't know ABCD, you cannot write an essay. It's something like that. Okay. So let's start with models of communication. Before that, few basic terminology words like what is communication? What are the basic elements of communication? So what is communication? Any message that is passed on from one person to another person is communication. There is a sender or a source who initiates the communication. Like here in the communication between me and you, I am the sender. I am the source of the message. I am sharing an idea here. Next is encoding. Whatever idea I have in my mind, I am encoding it in the form of a sentence. It could be an oral sentence. It could be a written sentence. It could be a picture. It could be an icon, words, language, gestures. This is also communication. This conveys okay in some languages and not okay in some cultures. Okay. So sender is me who is sending the message. Here I am encoding the message in words, language, spoken words. The message itself is what you are hearing. It could be written or oral or non-verbal in terms of body language, silence. Okay, that is also communication. We all know the word silent treatment when it comes to relationships, right? And I'm not just talking about spouses. Your mother could also give you silent treatment. So can your father. Next is the channel, the medium which is used to convey the message. Here the medium is internet. This class, this online session, Google Meet is our medium here to convey the message. My words are reaching you through that channel. You are the receiver. Here you are receiving the message. And based on whatever your experience, attitude, knowledge, skills, perceptions, and culture are, you will be able to understand my message. If you don't know English, you will not be able to understand my message, right? So based on your skill of English language, if you have no idea of what communication is, or if you have never been an educator, you will not be able to understand when I teach you things about classroom communication because you don't have prior knowledge of it. But all of us have studied in a classroom, in school, someday, somewhere. So we have an idea of what classroom looks like. There's a teacher, there's a blackboard or a whiteboard, there's a group of students sitting on benches, probably taking down notes or listening. That's the perception that comes whenever I say the word classroom. So if I'm teaching you classroom communication, because you have prior knowledge of that, based on that, you interpret the message that I share. Okay? Sender, encoding, message, channel or medium, receiver. Now decoding. So when you listen to those words, when those words fall on the pinna of your ear, when they travel through your inner ear and reach your brain, then the words that I am speaking, or the pictures that you see, or the gestures that you see, based on your knowledge and experience, you decode its meaning. So when I say the word classroom, you can see the classroom because it's there in your experience somewhere, and based on that you understand what I'm talking about. When I say words, you know what a word is. That CAT cat is a word. And that's why when I say words and symbols, you are able to understand what I'm talking about. And the last is the feedback, which is difficult to get in our sessions, right? Feedback is when I ask you, did you understand? And then you probably say yes, or share this. Or when I ask, am I audible? I get someone's answer saying, yes, you are audible. So when I say, am I audible? I am the source of the message. The encoding happens with words. The message is, am I audible? It is transmitted through the channel or medium of internet, Google Meet, online classroom here, it reaches to the receiver, that is you. Your brain decodes it as a question that I'm asking whether you are able to listen to my voice or not, whether there is technical clarity or not. So once that gets decoded, you give me the feedback that yes, you are audible, or yes, it is clear. This is the entire process of communication. We all know this, but it's just that these technical terms need to be understood. Now, what are the characteristics of communication? Context. Context is, in the starting when I told you that today we are going to talk about communication as a subject, these are the topics that we will cover. I gave you a context. Okay? Accurate message. The message sent has to be clear, short, and accurate. It should not be confusing. Understanding. When I talk to you, I should be talking to you in a way that you are able to understand what I am saying. Okay? If I start talking in Gujarati, which is my mother tongue, a lot of people here won't be able to connect with what I'm saying. So then there would be a problem because you are not able to understand what I'm saying. So the communicator, the source, has to understand what the receiver wants, and based on their style of communication, the message should be sent. Now consider all of this in the framework of teacher is the source and students are the receiver. Okay, so that is classroom communication. So the teacher has to talk in a way that students are able to understand. Empathy. This is also a question that is asked. A few other options were given, and it was asked that what is most important in classroom communication. So empathy, advocacy. Advocacy is advocating for feelings of other people. This is again a very important part of communication, putting yourself in the shoes of other person and thinking from their perspective, what should be done. Okay. Next, effective listening. Now, when you are the receiver, you ought to listen effectively so that you can understand what the other person is saying. As a teacher, you need to do effective listening of students, and as a student, you need to do effective listening for the teacher. Frequent. Now, effective communication occurs frequently to ensure that it has been received by all the students. Multi-channel. Now, if there's business communication, it needs to be sent through multi-channels to ensure that it is received. I sent a message today that the link is active, please start joining. Then I also shared a voice note. Okay, so this is the same channel, but the encoding was different. And here, when I came in the session, I asked again that please join live. So this is another channel where I am saying the same thing, and probably when it goes tomorrow in recording, all the people who are watching the recording would also get that message, right? So then the place where the recordings are stored becomes another channel to send the message. When it comes to business communication, you put posters, flyers, ads on TV, ads on radio, emails, promotional, all of this. So that is also multi-channel. And face-to-face communication. Still one of the most effective types of communication. Whenever possible and practical, face-to-face communication trumps any other kind of communication. Okay, even online, it is better to talk with your faces on, especially video conferencing, or even in classrooms. Don't we tell our students, please switch on your cameras? Because otherwise the student is listening or not becomes a question. Now here in adult education, the scenario is different, but when it comes to education for school especially, then teachers do insist that students keep their camera on so that they are able to understand if the student is confused and also whether the student is attentively listening or not. Okay, so face-to-face communication includes not just words but also body language. So that makes understanding or comprehension of the message very easy, because words consist of a very little part, Rest of it we'll talk about when it comes to verbal and non-verbal communication. Okay, in probably next year, I guess. Okay. Two-way communication. Two-way communication is when I talk to you and you can talk back to me, which is what is happening here. In a recorded session, it's a one-way communication. I don't go and check your comments on the recordings. Those recordings are there only so that in case you want to, if you missed a session, life happens. Okay, we all have our commitments and priorities, and somewhere, somehow, some things are more important than become more important than the session on few days. So for those days only, recording is there for your reference, and that is also with a time limit. Okay, so there you have only one-way communication. Here we have two-way communication. I'm talking to you, you can ask back questions to me. When we practice questions, you can give me answer, you can ask for clarification whenever necessary. Okay, so effective communicators should not be afraid to ask for clarification if they don't understand the message. Paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is a skill where whatever is said, you repeat that to the other person in short. What is the benefit of paraphrasing? First, it tells the other person that you were listening to them. Second, if you have understood something wrong, it gives the possibility, that space to the other person to correct you, whatever you have understood wrong. That is called paraphrasing. Repeating the same thing in short or using different words. Okay? Not even, no, there's no slide on paraphrasing. I'm just explaining that the meaning of paraphrasing is this. Okay? Just another term to add to your vocab. Body language, all the non-verbal communication that happens, eye contact, facial expressions, hand gestures, how close you are or how far you are in terms of proximity, dress, color, all of this forms a part of the body language. Okay, the way you stand, the way your posture is, the way, if I keep doing like this, you will really not like it. Like, of course, we have the PPT going on, but if someone's looking at my face right now, see, I am doing this and explaining it to you, you would not like it. Okay, so that is body language. So the correct body language is very important in communication. If you are talking to a friend and doing this, that is okay. But when we are taking a class as a teacher, unless we have given a break to the students and say, okay, now solve this, and you're doing that, good. But when you are teaching them and doing such kind of things, it's a huge distraction. Okay, touching hair, rolling eyes, all of this also conveys lack of honesty. Positive attitude. Now consider all these characteristics with keeping in mind that we are talking about mainly teachers and educators. Okay, we are preparing for UGC NET. A positive attitude. So effective communicators must work hard to keep the messages positive, as no one likes to listen to a complaint. Focus on what you can do for others instead of doing the things they feel difficult. So keep your messages positive, be respectful to others. Even when you say no, say it politely. Okay. Now, communication, there are 4 kinds of powers that you have in communication. First is the power to express yourself. Like, it's world. The moment we enter this world, we express ourselves by crying. Okay. So what we want to say, what we want, what we feel, expressing that, what we remember, expressing that, what we want, expressing that. Communication is a way to express yourself. Listening and responding. The second aspect of communication. You have the power to listen and understand the other person and respond back to them. Regulating attention and intention. Use emotional intelligence, tactical empathy to gain the attention of other person and their And whatever you intend to do, how should I put it? If your intention is that your students should learn this topic, ensuring that the student's intention also becomes the same, that they need to learn this topic. Using emotional intelligence, you can ensure that the other person does what you want them to do. That is the point. Understanding and responding to people in their style, mirroring or probably understanding the level of other person and explaining things to them at their level. These are the powers of communication. Okay, so these are the basics. So which of the following are the characteristic features of communication? Communication involves exchange of ideas, facts, and opinions. Communication involves both information and understanding. Communication is a continuous process. Communication is a circular process. So which of these all statements are true or false? Like true. Which of these are features? A, B, C, A, B, D, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. D, A, B, C, D, all four of them. Okay, so the answer is C. So what are the characteristic features of communication? It has specific objectives to be met. Whenever you communicate with the other person, there's a purpose. You probably want to build a bond with them. You want to share time with them. You want to teach them something. You want to learn something from them. You want to convey a message. There is always a specific objective. Even silence also has an objective. Okay, requires two or more person or parties. Communication can never be one person thing unless there's what we call intrapersonal communication, like meditation, prayer, but that also requires two parties. You talking to yourself is you and yourself, two parties. You cannot have single communication. Talking to God also is you and God, two parties. Okay, so with that exception, communication requires two parties. Involves exchange of information between sender and receiver. Makes use of a media or channel. It is a dynamic process. It is not static. Constantly messages are being sent, sometimes two-way. May face noise or barriers that distort the meaning of message. So when, just like right now, I was trying to explain a new term called paraphrasing, which suddenly struck in my mind. So someone say that, no, the slide is not there. So that barrier कि उसका slide नहीं है, that distorted the message that I was trying to give. I thought, okay, let me take a term which is not written also. But I forgot to say that it is not there in the slide. So someone was looking for it and even asked. Okay, so that is a noise or a barrier that occurs. So with due respect, I'm not saying what you created is noise. Noise in communication has a definition, and it is also a topic that we will learn. What are the kinds of noise and barriers when it comes to communication? Okay, essentially includes feedback, that is response of receiver to the sender. So thank you that today all of you are responding, and that makes me happy. Now let's go to models of communication. Okay, I need to make it small. This is basically what happens in communication. The communication process starts with the sender. This is the sender. Next, the sender sends a message, giving or asking information. Encoding of the message happens. Okay, through the channel, you give the information to the receiver. Now, from this channel, the message is received by the receiver and a reply is sent back to the sender again through a channel. This could be the same or different channel. This is the entire process of communication, which is what I talked about when we talked about elements of communication. If you want, you can just take a minute to look at the figure. Okay. The process starts with the sender. Step 1. Sender sends a message to the receiver. This arrow should actually go here. Okay. It's a figure that I took from somewhere. This arrow should go here. The sender encodes a message, gives information using a channel, sends it to the receiver. The message is received by the receiver and replies back to the sender. So now it decodes the message, again encodes the feedback. Using the same or a different channel, it sends the reply back to the sender. The receiver sends the message back. So now the sender is receiving information. Earlier, the sender was giving information. This completes the entire communication cycle. Clear? Just go with the numbers written here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Clear? Yes? Yeah. Okay. Now there are 3 kinds of communication models. This is very important to know: linear, interactive, and transactional. Please take a screenshot of this. This is memorization. Which ones are linear, which ones are interactive, which ones are transactional. And I'll tell you what are each of them. Okay. So linear model is one way, where the communication happens one way and there is no possibility of feedback. Let's say, for example, television. You cannot give any feedback to the television, right? There's no way you could reply. The main focus is on delivery of message. The feedback is usually absent, or even if it is there, it is very delayed. So if you remember, at one point there used to be a strip constantly running on television that if you have any complaints about the content which is shown, please connect with -- Broadcasting Corporation. This is the number. If you call them and give feedback, that is the feedback. But in most cases, we don't do that, right? So absent or delayed, the participants are sender to receiver. There's just one-way linear communication going on. The context is usually ignored. Okay, whatever message they want to say, they say, and the audience is usually huge. So the context is so vast for everyone that it does not conform to a particular section of people. For example, news bulletin. The models Shannon Weaver and Burlows are linear models. Interactive model. Now see the words itself. Linear is a single line happening. Interactive is interaction. So it is two-way with feedback. Like right now, whatever is happening. No, that's again not interactive. Right now, what is happening is transactional. So two-way feedback and the field of experience. Feedback is present but sequential. Okay, so it is turn. The sender first sends the message, the receiver receives it, and then sends back a feedback. For example, email. 2 people cannot send an email at the same time. Walkie-talkie. One person speaks, the other listens, and then once they stop speaking, the other person starts speaking. It is a one-way communication. Okay, sorry. At the time, only one side communication can happen, but it can happen on both sides. But at one single moment, only one side is communicating, either the sender side or the receiver side. But the channel is open on both sides. There's possibility of getting feedback, although sequential, turn by turn. Schramm and Osgood-Schramm advanced model are examples of it. Transactional model, two-way feedback, two-way communication, and simultaneous. Like I can be speaking and you can also be typing, or you can also unmute yourself and speak at the same time. So 2 or 3 of us can be speaking at the same time. That's a transactional model of communication. Shared meaning creation, instant and continuous, like a face-to-face conversation. Let's just not think in terms of devices only. A face-to-face conversation, two people talking with each other, is a transactional model. Shared meaning creation, a team meeting, a classroom, instant and continuous. Communicators both send and receive. So you cannot say this is sender, this is receiver. Both of them can simultaneously do both the roles. There is a strong emphasis on context because both of them can communicate with each other. Barnland, Watzlawick, Rogers, and Kincaid. These are the examples of transactional models. Now, constitutive meta model is the newer one, ongoing, multi-dimensional, like thousands of people commenting on a video at the same time. I know of, I have seen lives of people where within a fraction of second, there are 50, 60, 70 comments, okay? And the power of communicators is huge. Communication creates social reality. The comments of people have the power to make or break that celebrity. That happens, okay? Embedded within cultural and social systems, communicators shape meaning and reality, deep integration with society and power, okay? Everyday discourse shaping identities. So when we take a look at the last model, the Craig's 7 traditions model, you will understand what I am talking about, okay? So basically you need to remember that there are 3 kinds of models: linear, interactive, transactional. Meta model is the newer one, which is built to deal with the reality of social media, something that we never predicted before. Okay, so let's start with Laswell's model. You can see it's 1948. Who says what, in which channel, to whom, with what effect? Please remember this. Who says what, in which channel, to whom, with what effect? One-way propaganda and impact, let's say political speech, advertising. If someone is speaking from the dash and there are thousands of people listening, it is usually one-way communication. It was something like that. Who speaks? Who says what? To whom? With what effects? By what channel? Who says what? To whom? Who says what? By what channel? To whom? With what effects? The speaker, message, receiver, effect of that message, and the channel. This is a very simple Laswell model. One-way communication. Shannon-Weaver model 1949 is also a linear model, one-way communication, but there is an addition of this noise source, that when someone sends a message, in the channel, a noise source is added. Now, this noise could be the physical, actual noise, or it could be psychological barrier that is there. So, some kind of distortion or disturbance happens, which can distort the message and then it reaches the destination. This is the Shannon-Weaver information model. The same as the previous one, but with the addition of noise source. Okay. And previously, in last 2-3 years, once a question has been asked based on Shannon-Weaver model. Sender, encoder, channel, noise, decoder, receiver. So see these words: sending, encoding, channel, noise, decoding, receiving, feedback. This is the basic terminology of communication. It was originally designed for telegraphed or electronic communication. It introduced the concept of noise. It is also called the engineering model or mathematical model of communication. 3 levels of communication issues. Noise. First is technical. Transmission of signals happens or does not happen accurately. Semantic. Correct interpretation of the words that was said. If I say something but you understand something different, Then there is that's called semantic noise or a semantic barrier. Influential, whether the message could achieve the effect that it wanted to create. Did it achieve the desired response? These are the three communication issues as described in the Shannon-Weaver model, that these three problems could be there. The concepts of this model are, now again, these are keywords. You can get these words as options while solving questions related to this. So you should know these keywords. Entropy. What is entropy? It is the degree of disorder, uncertainty, or randomness in a message. Low entropy means the message is very organized in a very proper way. High entropy means there's a lot of chaos, lack of clarity. Low entropy, very clear. High entropy, less clear. There's uncertainty or randomness. Relative entropy is ratio of actual to maximum entropy. Like maximum this much chaos is possible. Now what's the actual chaos? The ratio of those two is called relative entropy. I haven't read anything related to relative entropy so far when it comes to question solving, but the word entropy is definitely there when it comes to classroom communication also, and even as options for questions. Redundancy, repetition of words or information that was not needed, extra information, or probably repetition of information. That is called redundancy. Extra predictable info that aids in message decoding. High redundancy, easier to understand. Avoid excessive redundancy for clearer communication. So if I repeat something again, it makes the message clear, but then I can't go on repeating it 5 times. Then that is also not okay. So instead of saying please repeat again, we can just say please repeat. Repeat actually means say again, but we say repeat again. So again is not needed. That's redundancy. When it comes to formal communication, redundancy is, they say that less words should be used, redundancy should not be there. Okay, but if you want to add politeness to your formal or informal messages, redundancy is important. Redundancy helps to create an emotional bond. So if I say that, we end our email or messages with, kindly take this into consideration, awaiting a quick response from your end. We can also say do it and give an answer, but using that longer language makes it politer. Okay, and in informal communication, redundancies help to build bonds. Channel capacity. Maximum amount of information that can be transmitted per unit of time. Going beyond leads to errors and miscommunication. So this much is the capacity. You cannot go beyond it. Like 2 hours is of capacity, is our capacity. The moment it turns 8, for a lot of you, it's like switch off. बस अब बहुत हुआ मैडम, आज के लिए इतना काफी है, right? Channel capacity. But here we are talking not about the student capacity. We are talking about the channel capacity, like how much message can be shared. Let's say Twitter has this, that you can write only this number of characters, or when we are filling the bio of Instagram, it also has this, that, or writing a title somewhere, that you can use only this much characters, something of that sort, or you can use only this number of hashtags. So that is the channel limit. What are the applications and limitations? It is best suited for interpersonal communication, not ideal for mass or group. Feedback is not emphasized. The receiver does not give feedback. It is single linear, more technical, less focus on meaning negotiation or human behavior. Because it is one-sided. You see here, it goes one side. Okay. So Shannon-Weaver model is a linear model. Now Berlow's SMCR model. Okay. Source, message, channel, receiver. This is also a linear model. There's no feedback, but there's no noise or barriers given here. Once a question has been asked based on SR model. So when they call SR model, that's Berlow's SMCR model. Now, why is it called SMCR model? Because of this. Source, message, channel, receiver. Linear model, single side, feedback is not there. So what's the source? Communication skills, attitudes, knowledge, social system, culture. All of this affects the way you speak or write or share a message. Now, what are the elements of message? Content and code, the way it is constructed. Channel, how do you receive the message? Seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, tasting are 5 sensory organs. And again, the same 5 things which were there for the source are the same 5 things which are there for the receiver while they are decoding the message. That's the Berlow's SMCR model. Let's take a look at it. So for the source, okay, communication skills, attitude, like whatever is your desire towards it, whatever is your educational background, social system, especially when it comes to cross-cultural settings, like Asian cultures and Western cultures are different. So cultural context also, like I don't remember in which FDP I shared this example. Saying sir is a culture here, and calling people by first names is the Western culture. So if you are an Indian working for a US company whose branch is there in India and all the employees around you are Indian, there's a lot of confusion because your Indian boss expects you to call sir, but he cannot say that to you on face because apparently it's an American company and you can't use the word sir. You have to call everyone with their first name, something of that sort. So that is again cultural context. Message, the content is script or information, elements of it, speech, gestures, facial expressions, the way the message is delivered, politely, angrily, enthusiastically, with a lot of sadness. Structure, logical arrangement of the content, the sequence of the content, and code is the language used. Verbal language, non-verbal language, and even in that, there are a lot of variations. So that is the message, components of the message. Next is the channel, 5 senses, and receiver has the same 5 factors: communication skills, attitude, knowledge, social system, cultural context. So whenever communication happens, these are the factors that affect it. That's what Berlow's SMCR model says. The limitation is it's a one-way communication, no feedback. So even when the news channel says the news, they do not talk to you impolitely, right? They give respect to their viewers. So that's again a cultural context. It is more suited for formal, controlled communication context. An email sent by the CEO of the company to the entire company's employees, and it does not expect a response. It's just a notification. So that is also one-way communication. No noise or barrier consideration is given when it comes to Berlow's SMCR model. Noise or barrier consideration is here. Shannon-Weaver model, noise. Okay, in Berlow's, that is not considered. Now, after this, let's go to the transactional models. So far clear? The reason for teaching these models is not that you will get questions from it, but the terminology which comes when you have to solve questions either from mass media or classroom communication, these are the terminologies that you need to know: entropy, redundancy, encoding, decoding. If you know that okay, this model has noise, this does not have noise. This is which of these models is applicable to classroom communication. So if you don't know the models, how would you answer? So that's the purpose of knowing these models. Okay. Osgood, Schramm, these were 2 scientists, their circular model. Now here we are starting with the interactive models. Sorry, not transactional. Where there's no fixed sender receiver, both can send the message. The communication, the 4 principles are: first, communication is circular. Encoder and decoder position keeps changing. Communication is equal and reciprocal. both people are equally sharing and both people are equally receiving. So face-to-face communication is considered a good example of it. The message requires interpretation. Like when someone says something, the other person needs to listen, decode the message, and then give feedback. Encoding, decoding, interpreting are the 3 steps. So the source encodes, sends the message, the receiver decodes, interprets the message, and then encodes the reply or the feedback. Now it is sent, the message is sent to the source. The source now decodes the message, interprets it, and sends another message. Just take a moment to look at the figure. I'll explain it slowly again. Let's start from here. Okay. Encoder sends the message to the decoder. That's the receiver. Now, once the message is decoded, it is interpreted. What is the meaning of the message? And then the encoder sends the reply to the source. So now the source becomes the decoder. Interprets the message and again sends. So this cycle keeps on going on and on. Clear? Okay. Next is Katz's intermediary model of communication, 1957. Now this is called the gatekeeping model. Just a moment. Yeah, okay. Katz's intermediary model of communication, also called the gatekeeping model, focuses on the role of intermediaries or gatekeepers in shaping communication. So what are gatekeepers? Now this is one another term. Individuals or groups who control the flow of information. Like in a news channel, the editor will decide what will be the news, what will be the angle that they will take, what would be conveyed forward through the news bulletin. Same for the newspapers. Journalists, producers, content moderators, they decide what information gets shared, printed, broadcast, or published. These people are called gatekeepers who control the flow of information. Katz's model is where gatekeepers, the concept of gatekeepers was introduced. What are the skills emphasized to become a gatekeeper? Technical skills, practical ability to handle media tools and platforms, human skills. You should know what people want, right? Interpersonal abilities, empathy, collaboration, and conceptual skills. Critical thinking, understanding complex ideas and systems. Cognitive skills is also what we can say, the brain. So technical skills, human skills, like social skills, and the brain skills. These are the 3 skills which are important. This is most relevant in mass communication. It shows how media content is filtered and shaped before reaching the audience, explains why not all messages reach everyone, and how bias or intentional framing may occur. The implication, the result is gatekeepers can influence public opinion, cultural narratives, and agenda setting. And audiences often receive curated or filtered information, not raw data. What happens with our news channels? Okay. So a speaker speaks, the gatekeeper controls how much reaches the audience. This is the intermediary model, Katz's intermediary model of communication. Clear? But there's only this concept of gatekeeper, nothing more here. Next, now we had the Osgood Shams model. This is the Shams advanced model. Okay. Shared field of experience is important. Like the shared context is important. Emphasis on encoding, decoding overlap, and communication is not effective without shared background. What if both of us did not understand English? Only one party understood it. What if both of us did not have any idea of what educators do, and like I was speaking about classroom and you didn't know what classroom is, or I was speaking about teachers and you don't know what teachers are. There has to be shared field of experience, shared concepts. Somewhere the overlap has to be there for communication to happen. How should I explain it? Okay, so see, in our Indian languages, we have the respectful language and the informal language. Aap or tum, what we call, or whatever it is said in your native tongue. Aap is when I call my elders, I use the word aap. When I call my peers or my youngers, I call them tum. Okay. So this concept is there in all Asian languages, most of them, whether it's Chinese, Japanese, Korean, the respectful and the informal. Now, when it comes to English or Latin languages, this concept is not there. For them, it is I, and we becomes a respectful language. So you is anyways you, but he or his becomes they or them. They use plural for respect, and that is only for I have heard for the royal family of England. Apart from it, everywhere I have just heard him, his. They call his royalty his highness, but they don't have such framework that we have here. Okay, so imagine two people from these two different contexts coming and talking. That there are a lot of cultural shocks at that time. Nowadays we don't have that, but probably 10-15 years ago, a lot of my elders got these shocks when their children went to Canada and US, and they realized that English really does not have the translation for aap or tum. It's all you. Okay, this is just an example. I'm not demeaning any language. English is my bread and butter. Okay, so it's just that the cultural experiences are different. Now, if they don't have common field of experience, then it's a problem. Just an example. So source encoder, this is his field of experience, her field of experience. The decoder, the receiver, also has a field of experience. It has to overlap somewhere. Even if the cultures are different, if both of them know English, or if both of them know a common language, or if both of them have belong to the same field, architecture, science, commerce, anthropology, whatever field they belong to. If there's something common, the message can be understood, but something common has to be there. Okay, so that is Schramm's advanced model. Field of experience is the term that you need to understand here. Now, transactional model of communication, the third kind, where both side communication happens at the same time. Like this, that sender and receiver and sender, there is field of experience around. Okay, the channel of feedback is there, the message goes both sides. There is also channel of feedback simultaneously at the same time. Everything is happening all at once. The sender is sending, the receiver can also send at the same time. The channel of feedback is open on both sides, and the message is also open on both sides. And there is a shared field of experience. This is the transactional model of communication. Please take a moment to look at it. This will help you understand the word transactional. So Václavic is the person who proposed this. Communication is continuous, contextual because there's field of experience, and mutual. Participants are communicators, not sender or receiver, because both of them are sending and receiving. So those who can send and receive both, he said that let's call them communicators. The meaning is created mutually, together, in people, not just words. It emphasizes feedback, non-verbal cues, and shared meaning. Includes both content and relationship dynamics, because this is the content dynamic and this field of experience talks about the relationship dynamics. Another transactional model was proposed by Barnland, that communication is reciprocal and simultaneous. There is dynamic two-way communication. It was the basis for general transactional model, and it is considered to be the most systematic communication model. Okay. The key terms to learn here again are, first is cues. Just give me a moment. Oh. Cues are public, that is a physical or environmental or natural or man-made. Private, that is senses of a person. My eyes are my own personal cues. Okay. Then behavioral, the verbal and the non-verbal signs that are shared, be it words, be it your gestures, be it your postures. Public, private, and behavioral. These are the cues. Speech act, a specific communication event that happens. Like I'm talking to you and you are responding back in messages. This is a specific event that is happening. That's a speech act. Filters, cultural, personal, situational factors which shape the interpretation. Noise, interference in message flow, and shared field experience. Common ground between communicators. Okay, very common to the general transactional model. Liggins model. Now this is used for agricultural, rural development, and adult education. Here, again, the words are communicator, message content, channels of communication, treatment of message, tailoring the message to the audience. This is a new concept here. Audience is the targeted group to receive the message, and audience response is the desired behavior or attitudinal change. All of these are transactional models where communication happens both ways. Let's say workshops could be considered as an example of this, because we are talking about adult education. So adult workshops, like if this class was probably, this class is also an example of transactional model. If this was an offline workshop, then I would also be able to see the way you are responding, your non-verbal response, probably nodding your head or doing the thumbs up that way. And the last one, the meta model by Robert T. Craig. He says that communication is not just a process, like it goes here and then it goes come back. No, it's something that creates our social world. It forms relationships, society, and meaning. So he says that it should be viewed as multidimensional. It bridges theory and practice across disciplines, across various sectors of life. So the 7 traditions of communication theory are, first, again, these are 7 words that you need to learn. Rhetorical, art of persuasion and discourse. Discourse is speech. Like delivering a lecture is a discourse. Art of persuasion and discourse is rhetorical. Semiotic, meanings through signs and symbols. Phenomenological, like dialogue and experiences that you have lived in your life. Phenomenon that happens based on that, your experiences of life. Cybernetic, that's the flow of information. Socio-psychological, behavior, influence, the way a person behaves. Socio-cultural. Now, language as a creator of social reality. Now, not just behavior of one person, but the entire society. And lastly, critical. Challenges power structures and assumptions. Challenges someone who's at the power and makes them go back on the right way or changes the system, like the speech of Martin Luther King, like the speech given by our Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose when he said "Chalo Delhi" to the Indian National Army when Purna Swaraj was declared. Now these are the examples that I can think of when we talk about the critical traditions of communication theory. So what are the functions of communication? Rhetorical, semiotic, phenomenological, cybernetic, socio-psychological, socio-cultural, and critical. These are the aspects. Now, this is a short revision of all the models that we have talked. So you can take a screenshot of it and then we will solve the questions. If you have any doubts, please ask. Can we move ahead with the questions? Okay, let's start. The major contributor to the theory of communicative reason and communicative rationally was... These are the questions that have been asked. You cannot cover all the communication theories in the world. I tried to find out and I found that mostly 5 or 10 of them are very famous. And after that, at least in first 3-4 pages of Google search, you can't find names of more theories. Okay. So Habermas is the answer. Remember this, communicative reason, communicative rationally is Habermas. Next. Okay, should I increase the font size for this? Yeah. Okay. So assertion is, with the development of science and technology, the forms and ways of communication have become more specialized. And there is an increasing use of social media as new methods of communication. The reason is, in the societies of today, the communication process is more complex and indirect because of use of modern gadgets in which the individuals do not interact face to face. So both are true and R is the correct explanation of A. Both are true, but R is not the correct explanation of A. A is true, but R is false. A is false, but R is true. These are your 4 options. B, A, okay. More answers. You can guess. Come on. In exam, you're not supposed to leave anything blank. There's no negative marking. Neither there nor here. I don't even take names of people. A, okay. A lot of people in favor of A. So R is not the correct explanation of A. Okay. So see, communication has become more specialized and there is an increase in use of social media. Here it says communication is more complex and indirect because of use of modern gadgets. So both of them are true, but more complex because of use of modern gadgets and more specialized because of more specialized and increased use of social media are not directly related. So that is why the answer is B. Okay. Next, dash message have more or less same meaning for the audience. Complex, connotative, denotative, and abstract. Denotative. Okay. And that's the answer. It has more or less the same meaning for the audience. Marshall McLuhan's name is associated with the assertion, and this question has been asked quite a few times with different formats. Whatever is the answer here is given as the question and said who gave this assertion. The reverse, that way. Light is not visible. Are you sure? Is this slide visible, everyone, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it is. Okay, so tell me the answer now. Come on, guess everyone. A, B, C, D, चार ही तो option है. B. B and C. Is this light visible, guys? I shut off my camera because there's no electricity. So, okay. Let's go to the answer. The medium is the message. And there's one more person, Joshua Merowitz. He gave the term medium theory. Okay, the channel, the medium. So medium theory is given by him. So Marshall McLuhan, the medium is the message. They have also asked sometimes who gave this. So the answer is Marshall McLuhan. And Joshua Merowitz is one other name. He gave the term called medium theory. Next, which of the following is an exclusive example of non-verbal cue? Pitch, rate, volume, and use of pauses. Why is this question here? Okay, this is a question from the second topic. But anyways, let's do it. So when it comes to non-verbal cues, okay, probably because we talked about the cues. Pitch of voice, rate at which we speak, the volume, and the use of pauses. Which of this is relating to that? Linear model of communication, interactional model, non-verbal cues, or paralanguage? So the answer is paralanguage, which we will take in the next topic. That's the types of communication. So please remember, pitch, rate, volume, and use of pauses is called paralanguage. I guess I pasted the question in the wrong PPT. Sorry, my mistake. Next, identify the correct sequence of one-way process of communication. Like, what is the correct sequence? What comes first? Then second, then third, then fourth, then fifth. This is one way, linear communication. Okay, everyone says B. And the answer is B. In a classroom situation, oh goodness. In a classroom situation, a teacher organizes group discussion to help arrive at a solution of problem. In terms of model of communication, what will be used? Transactional, interaction, horizontal, linear. So remember, transactional is when both Sides can simultaneously speak. Interaction is one by one. Horizontal is interaction between peers, like vertical is interacting with superiors that way, and linear is one-sided. So A and B is where probably you will have confusion here. So the answer is A, transaction model. Okay, because in a group discussion, both the sides keep on speaking continuously. Next, in the linear model of communication, the expected result is, what's the expected result? Psychological disruption, removal of physical noise, high level of obstruction, semantic accuracy. What's the expected result? Oh, someone said D. Okay. What about others? Psychological disruption. Psychologically, you disrupt the message. Removal of physical noise. There is no noise. Does that happen in linear model? There is no noise. High level of obstruction. Semantic accuracy. Semantic accuracy is that the words are accurate. And the answer is D. Why? Because it does not include feedback. So the person who's speaking has to be very accurate in speaking. Now, probably when I'm explaining things, if you don't understand, you will say, please explain it again. Or probably this was confusing. But when there is no feedback, then I need to ensure that what I am saying has to be understood by the other person, which means there has to be semantic accuracy. Next, according to SR model or stimulus response model, this is what we are talking about, Barlow's SMCR model. All communication is collective, individual, interpersonal, massive. C, interpersonal. B, individual, because it is one way from one person to another. Interpersonal is when two people communicate with each other, then it becomes interpersonal. In the communication process, when the sender and the receiver interchange their roles, it is called, what is it called? Universal, transactional, singular flow, pluralistic. So when the sender and the receiver interchange their role, it means the receiver becomes the sender. They can give their feedback and the sender receives that feedback. That is transactional, linear, interactive, transactional. In the linear model of communication, okay, this is a repeated question. Select the advantage of feedback in the process of communication. What is the advantage of feedback? It is beneficial in understanding subject. It diagnoses the defects in receiver. It clarifies the communication, or it explores the defects in the receiver. C. Others. A. C. Yeah. B and D can be eliminated. Now the only two options remaining are A and C. So the answer is C. Okay. Feedback is the reverse flow of the message to the sender. So it cannot help in understanding because the sender is not sending a message back based on the feedback. It is just that the receiver is sending back the feedback. Okay. So when the sender gets the feedback and sends a new message again, then probably this. But for the receiver sending feedback, it just clarifies the communication. Okay. Now this is a question asked, and it is a rote memorization question. Arrange the 5 W's in proper sequence. Why, when, what, who, what. This question has been asked. In 2024. C is 3, I guess. A is 1. Guess, everyone. Make a guess if you don't know. Just need to type a letter or number. So the answer is C or 3, as you can call it. Why, when, what, who, what is actually the correct sequence. Okay, and this question has been asked. So just note it down somewhere. The major actions in the process of communication are receiving, sending, reviewing, interpreting, analyzing. Think of the keywords that we have talked about. Three. Okay. There's something wrong somewhere. The answer is actually 3. Receiving, sending, and interpreting. Oh, sorry. The sequence of the slides was wrong. Okay, the question is, no. Did I? Yep. So, okay, so this is the question. Arrange the sequence of the 5 C's or elements of communication. And the correct sequence goes like this: clear, concise, compelling, curious, and compassionate. That is the sequence. This happens. Next, the basic factors of listening are. What are the basic factors of listening? Self-interest, speaker, facts, style of speaking, atmosphere. Listening. So you're right. The answer is 1. Self-interest, speaker, and style of speaking. The facts and the atmosphere are not the basic factors of listening. Your interest in whatever the other person is speaking, who's the speaker, and the way that they are speaking impacts whether the other person is more attentive or not. Interpretation of a media text, okay, which is in variance with the original creator's intention. So the interpretation is not the same as what the sender intended. The sender wanted to send the message as ABC, but the interpreter read it as BCD. This is called okay. So the answer is aberrant. Aberrant is something that is different from what it should be. An aberration or an anomaly is, for example, everyone has 5 fingers, but someone has 6. So then that's aberrant. That's an aberration. Okay, just to give an example. Which of the following contextual factors determine meaning in communication behavior? So when you need to find out meaning in communication, which factors are important? Physical location, participants, preceding events, non-functional goals, absence of audience. One and two. Any other answers? So the answer is 1. See, when we talk about communication, communication is always with some specific goal. Okay, so non-functional goals is not applicable. And if there is no audience, who is going to communicate? The absence of audiences cannot be a factor in communication behavior. The Shannon and Weaver model of communication has which of the following characteristics? It is linear. It focuses on transmission of information. It is concerned with reproduction of messages from one point to another. It offers a meta model of communication, and the feedback component is circular. So now you need to remember whether it was linear, interactive, or transactional. Based on that, you can decide whether A is applicable or not. And based on what we have learned about linear, interactive, and transactional, there are 2-3 options which you can anyways decide. One way to solve this is let's suppose if Shannon and Weaver model of communication is linear. If A is 2 option, then I just need to see 1 and 4. If B is the correct option, then I just need to see 2, 3, and 4. Or if I know that C is not, I'm just giving example, that C should not be there, then automatically 1, 2, and 3 are wrong. The only answer remaining is 4. That is also how you can eliminate when you are confused about 1 or 2 points. Okay, so the answer is 1, A, B, and C. Meta model is the last model, which is the newer, very new model, which talks about how communication impacts the entire world and society. And there is no feedback because it is a linear model. So E is again not applicable. So the answer is A, B, and C. Okay, now two statements are given. First, communication is a symbolic process and as such depends upon symbols that are both arbitrary and conventional. Arbitrary means they do not have any structure, unstructured, and conventional. I wouldn't just say unstructured. Arbitrary is random, okay, and conventional, like they are traditionally used. Statement 2. Different symbols cannot be selected to represent an object or idea to communicate. Now, both are true, both are false, or either one of them is true. It is a symbolic process that depends on symbols that are arbitrary and conventional. Different symbols cannot be selected to present an object or idea to communicate. Literature people in the room, you would know what's that languages are made up of arbitrary symbols used to denote sounds, right? Both are false. Okay. Everyone says both are false. No. Statement 1 is true. Now, why arbitrary? Because if you have not studied language, you would not know that. So for all those who come from the other fields, see, when A was called A, who came and told us that this is how A should look? When we wrote Ka of Hindi, who came and told us that this is how Ka should look like? Our ancestors decided that this is how Ka sound will look like. And conventionally, we have been using it. So it is an arbitrary symbol that we are using. Okay. Now, who said that this needs to be called a handkerchief? Who came and told us? God. No. Arbitrarily, it was decided that this will be called handkerchief. Okay. Who said that this is phone or mobile phone? We decided it arbitrarily. That why is the bottle called a bottle? Arbitrarily, we decided to call it bottle. So communication is a symbolic process and as such depends on symbols that are both arbitrary and conventional. Figures are anyways, you can associate with the word symbols. But letters are also symbols in a way. The letters of the language, the words of a language, all of them are arbitrary and conventional because we have been using them since centuries. Like a bottle is called bottle since at least last 100 years, so for sure. So that is why arbitrary and conventional. Okay, for non-language people. So that is the end of the topic models and we will start with the second topic, which is types of communication. Just give me a moment. Okay, so verbal, non-verbal, then horizontal, vertical, all these kinds of communication, different types of communication would be included in this topic. There have been questions asked. Next to mass media, the second lot of questions is asked from this topic only. Okay, and it is not difficult to understand if you have, or maybe because I have been teaching soft skills and communication, so probably I feel that it's not difficult. If you understand the terminology, if you are someone who has ever been interested in leadership communication and stuff like that, you will not find the ideas to be very new. Otherwise, these ideas can be completely new to you. So please be focused in either case. If you know it, consider it a revision. If you don't know, all the more reason to pay attention. Intrapersonal communication, communication with your own self. That is speaking to oneself. Soliloquy, speaking to your own self. In Shakespeare's dramas, this used to be there. Hamlet was talking to himself, or when you see someone, voicing out their thoughts loud in a movie, speaking to oneself, listening to oneself, relating to oneself. Individual reflection, you write your journal. That's interpersonal communication. Meditation, contemplation, even praying to God. Formulating our thoughts or ideas before actually indulging in overt communication. Or probably when we are arranging thoughts in our mind before actually speaking them out to another person or another group of people, that formulating our thoughts in our mind is also intrapersonal communication. Muttering words such as, oh my God, oh no, wow, thank God. Mostly it's self-communication. You are expressing your own emotion and not what the other person is feeling. Yes, Lady Macbeth. I have always read Hamlet as an example of soliloquy, so that's what came to my mind first. Interpersonal, between two people. You are one, then there's another person. Dyadic, D-Y-A-D-I-C, dyadic, two, dia. Face-to-face routine communication between two people, both while sending and receiving messages. It can be formal, informal, verbal, non-verbal. Using words, sounds, facial expression, gestures, postures, and the feedback is immediate. Okay? On an immediate basis, you get a feedback. Face-to-face. And if not face-to-face also, the feedback is immediate. Two people chatting on WhatsApp is also interpersonal communication. Due to proximity between sender and receiver, it has emotional appeal. Now, what is emotional appeal here? Motivation, encouragement, and coordination of work is more effective. It depends on mutual relationship between two partners in their communication, their status, roles, and skills. And there is a greater scope for grapevine, gossip. It can be further subdivided into formal, that is meeting and conferences, or informal, that is sitting with your family members, friends, that kind of communication. Or, colleagues talking in the canteen where you're not exactly talking about the workload, the project. Based on purpose and style, it can be divided into formal and informal communication. So what is formal communication? Official information follows predefined structured channel. Now, formal communication is usually structured. A set format is there. This is how you need to write a formal email. This is how you speak a formal speech. Occurs through a hierarchical system. Hierarchy is boss, then senior manager, team leader, then the team, or let's say when it comes to our education world, trainers, assistant professors, HODs, that way. And then on HOD, you have vice principal, then the dean, and then what do we call him? VC of the university. Memos, emails, presentations, meetings, speeches, letters, bulletin boards, all of this is an example of formal communication. Informal, unofficial, spontaneous, free-flowing. Okay, it just happens. Here, what we are doing is formal communication. I'm having a PPT, I'm explaining things to you pointer by point. It's a mix a little bit because I do give informal examples in between. But however, this is not exactly spontaneous, free-flowing. We have slides to guide the direction of our conversation. Okay, based on social relations, has no paper trail. See, no paper trail. Here we do have PPTs and a recording also going on. Often faster and multi-directional. So what are the different kinds of informal networks? Grapevine. Gossip. So grapevine is you tell someone, he tells to someone else, Then that person goes and tells 2 other people. They go and tell to 2, 3 more different people. That's called the grapevine. Like a vine of grapes, it spreads. Gossip is one person goes and tells 10 people one by one or together. That is gossip. A single strand is an info passes from one person to another in a line sequentially. Cluster network. One person tells few selected members and then they pass it within their groups. And the last is probability chain. The info is randomly shared with anyone. That's probability chain. Okay, 5 kinds of informal networks. Now, based on direction, vertical, formal in nature, upward, bottom up, like from employees to seniors, from professors to HODs, and downward is top down, from the management to the professors. Lateral or horizontal communication. It happens between peers or people at the same level. Students interacting with each other is also horizontal communication. Teachers interacting with other teachers at the same level is horizontal communication. It can be both formal and informal depending on the purpose of the communication, depending on the setting. Fast and effective, less delayed by hierarchy, and encourages team building and interdepartmental coordination. Diagonal, that is interdepartmental communication. Employee of one department talking to HOD of another department, HOD of another department talking to employee of another department or another college. There's diagonal communication. Cuts across hierarchical boundaries, promotes relation building and informal bonds. Networking, what we call. Okay. Now, communication networks. What are communication networks? They represent how information flows within a group or organization. 4 kinds of communication networks are there. Chain, wheel, circle, and all channel. A chain is something that follows a formal chain of command, top down or bottom up. The vertical or the vertical communication from management to professor or professor to management. A bureaucratic office where messages go from manager, team lead, employee. Okay, that's chain network. Wheel network is one person talking to the group. The one-to-one via the central leader. Like college principal talks with each HOD. College principal, 5 HODs. Okay. Now each HOD talks to 5 people in their team. That way. But the HODs don't talk amongst themselves. That's a wheel network. College principal talks to 5 HODs. HODs are not talking with each other. The principal is talking to each of them. Quick decision making, not team friendly and lacks collaboration because these people are not talking with each other. Circle network. Now, this is kind of informal flow. Each member communicates with adjacent members, and it is often based on proximity, shared interest, how close you are to the people who are present there around. Colleagues in adjacent offices sharing project updates. It works well in autonomous teams or flat organizations where hierarchy is not emphasized, where everyone is at almost same level when it comes to sharing ideas or respect. Then that's circle network. And all channel network is where everyone communicates with everyone. Free, multi-directional, open, highly collaborative teams, brainstorming groups, especially when there are creative projects happening. This kind of communication is important. You don't know which idea comes from which place. Okay, there's no formal leader. Anyone can initiate the communication. That's an all-channel network. So communication networks are of 4 kinds. Chain network, wheel network, circle network, and all-channel network. So far clear? Everyone? Okay, still with me. Great. Next. Verbal and non-verbal communication. Okay. So verbal communication is where words are used. Either it can be oral by speech or written. That is verbal communication. Verbal does not mean just spoken communication. It also means written communication. And then you have second type, that is non-verbal. So what happens in oral communication? Face-to-face speech, phone calls, video, radio, TV, voice over internet. All of this falls in the category of oral communication. The pros, the good things are that it is spontaneous, personal, quick feedback, supported by body language. And when someone speaks, you can see their body language, so it becomes easier to understand things. Okay, but it is supported by that. On radio, you cannot see the body language. So body language is not primary when we are talking about oral communication. Cons, the disadvantages: temporary, culturally misinterpreted non-verbal cues can happen. Okay. Now, oral speech is temporary unless it's recorded. You speak, the other person listens, and it might get forgotten. Phonetics is just a term. It is the study of speech sounds. That is phonetics. Like cat is ka, a, ta. That's phonetics, study of speech sounds. Just a definition. Paralanguage, a question that we discussed previously. What is paralanguage? When I am speaking, the way I speak, my pitch, if it's high, it's excitement. Oh, come on, guys, now let's do this. Low, like if someone is angry, it would be like, how dare you? That's a pitch. The volume depends on the audience size and setting, how high you want to speak, how low you want to speak. Rate, speaking fast, or very slow, like Atal Bihari Vajpayee used to speak. Irregular rate, lack of confidence. When the person is not confident, they stutter, they fumble. That's also the rate at which they are speaking. And clarity, proper pronunciation and articulation of words. These are the 4 aspects of paralanguage. A lot of times questions have been asked where they say that, what is this? So it is paralanguage. Or which out of this is important when it comes to verbal communication? And paralanguage is the only option that fits in. Written communication, emails, letters, memos, reports, brochures, ads. Internal memos, manuals, reports, they are internal to an organization. And external to an organization, emails could be internal also, but external also. Websites, proposals, and advertisements are communication to outside of the organization. The pros of written communication are that it can be edited, revised, it can be corrected before sending out, it is a permanent record, and it enhances clarity and objectivity. You write something, you ask someone, look at this draft, is it okay? You make the changes. After 4 or 5 drafts, you finally create a good piece which can go permanently on record. The cons are slower feedback. I'm talking to you, you are immediately responding, the feedback is faster. In written communication, the feedback is slower, time consuming, and it is less spontaneous. The other person thinks objectively and then writes something. Okay? Non-verbal communication. So, clear with verbal communication, it is oral and written. Wherever words are used, that is called verbal communication. Just give me a moment. Okay, non-verbal communication. There are 8 types of non-verbal communication. Very easy to remember and understand. What are the things that could be considered a part of body language? Your face, whatever emotions are shown. Now, facial expressions should match the words that are spoken. Happiness, sadness, anger, surprise. When you say I'm okay, but your face shows sadness, the other person understands that you are not okay. But when it comes to writing I'm okay in a chat message, this does not happen because the other person cannot see your face, or that probably you are crying. Posture, the way you stand, the way you put your hands. Okay, like this is defensive. It's called closed communication. Yeah, closed hands show that no, I don't want to listen to you. You're being defensive. This is more open. Like, okay, share your views. I'm ready to listen. So as a teacher, closed posture is not good. It also, when someone is nervous, they do this. You should usually have open posture. Sit or stand straight. Avoid slouching like this. Don't go that. Gestures or body language, waving, pointing, nodding. Avoid pointing fingers. Don't do this. It looks very bad, especially like even when I'm doing on the screen, it feels so not correct. Okay, so don't do that. Have open gestures, warm, welcoming gestures. Wave, point, nod at the required points. Touch, haptics, handshake, pat on the back, a hug. It conveys warmth, reward, and dominance. But one thing to remember is keep in mind cultural considerations when it comes to haptics. Okay, like in Asian cultures, gender is one important thing that you need to consider when it comes to this. Gender, relations, elderly, age, these are the things that you need to consider. In Western culture is a bit more free. And again, I'm just explaining to you the difference between the two. I'm not saying what is right, what is wrong. Okay? What are the things that you need to consider as a teacher, as an employee, when you meet people from different cultures? Cross-cultural, knowing the other culture and respecting the culture is very important. We'll also come to that when we come to intercultural communication. Types of nonverbal communication are space, proxemics. Okay. The fifth one is space. Now, space could be like if someone comes very close to you, within 18 inches of you, you will not feel good. Unless that is a very close person to you, like your mom, your dad, your spouse, your child. Okay. Social distance needs to be maintained at 1.5 feet at least, even with a colleague that you are very good at. With strangers, we prefer even more distance. So consideration of space or proxemics is again very important when it comes to nonverbal communication. Eye contact, looking into the eyes of the other person, but don't stare at them in a way that makes them uncomfortable. Every 20 seconds, move your eye here and there and then come back. Okay. Also, cultural considerations of gender, position while making an eye contact. Be confident in your eye contact. Don't be overconfident or arrogant. Don't be staring in such a way that you make the person uncomfortable, the person of opposite gender, or even same gender for that matter. Don't make them uncomfortable. Don't make your students uncomfortable. Okay? Unless you are actually angry at them and you are raising your eyes. Frequency of contact conveys emotions. In a formal setting, you don't keep on looking into their eye continuously. But in an informal setting with your closed ones, the eye contact is a bit more. Paralanguage, tone, pitch, volume, rate of speech. That is a part of non-verbal communication. Okay, paralanguage is a part of non-verbal communication. But words are supported by paralanguage, by the way we speak. Appearance and dress. The way you dress, the way you style, the way you groom yourself, whether you're wearing a t-shirt or whether you are wearing a three-piece suit, sends a message about your intentions or about the image that you want to create. Okay. The static and dynamic features of nonverbal communication. Static features, distance, is a sign of comfort, power, or formality. Orientation, like you're sitting side by side, face to face, like side by side is cooperation. Face to face, if your confrontation is happening, you can't look at someone at your side, you will go face to face. Physical contact shows intimacy or attitude. Like you are congratulating someone, you are giving encouragement to someone, or if someone's not feeling okay, you're probably giving empathy to someone. It could be all of those things. Posture conveys confidence or submission, depending on what posture it is. Dynamic features of facial expressions, they constantly keep on changing. And often the facial expressions are mostly universal, unless you have mastered poker face. Gestures, culturally specific, and you need to learn them. You know of your cultures, but of the other culture, like in Japan, they bow. When they finish talking, they bow. In China also, they have a culture of bowing down. Korea also. Here in India, we have the culture of touching feet. Okay, so that way, these are gestures which are culturally specific. Eye contact is again dynamic. It comes and goes. It comes and goes. So categories of non-verbal communication. This is, some of it is a repetition of the types that we taught before. Proxemics is the use of space. Paralinguistics. Body movements, gestures and postures and eye contact are together called kinesics. Okay. Haptics is touch. I just wanted you to understand the terminology. Proxemics is physical space. Paralinguistics, we already talked about paralanguage. Kinesics, everything related to body. Gesture, facial expression, posture, eye contact, that all falls under category of kinesics. Haptics is touch. Phonemics, study of sound units in the language. Dress and appearance. Chromatics is use of colors. Okay, and iconics is use of symbols or emoticons to represent messages visually. What we are doing these days in our chats, okay, or online comments. That is iconics. Clear so far? So let me see. Okay, so now in this types of communication, we have two parts remaining. First is intercultural communication and second is group communication. Okay, so that we'll take tomorrow. And after that, we'll complete classroom communication and take a few questions from it. Day after tomorrow, we'll continue with the last and the most weightage topic, mass media. Okay, because by then you would have learned all the terminology. So let's do a few questions. Okay. So these are few kinds of listeners, like non-listener, marginal listener, evaluative listener, and active listener. And their opposite to them is a set of characteristics. Let me just so if you had to match these characteristics, non-listener, marginal listener, evaluative listener, active listener. B. Okay. Others. The answer is D. Let's see what's it between. A non-listener is engaged in information other than the one needed. Okay. This is information without processing the significance, looks into relevance and pays it. Okay. So see, non-listener is someone who's not engaged at all. They are engaged somewhere else. Marginal listener is someone who pays occasional attention. Evaluative listener, on the other hand, they do not process the information in the right context. Okay. And active listener is someone who actually looks into the relevance that with an open mind, whatever the communicator is trying to say. That's why the answer is B. Clear? Clear? Because the answer was very different. Chandra. Okay, clear. Thank you. Is there any other relevant question? The choice of communication partners is influenced by what? A? Yes, that's the answer. Okay, so secrecy is opposite of communication actually. Dissimilarity, dissonance, deviance, deception, all of these are actually opposites of communication. These are the factors that make communication difficult. Non-verbal communication is mostly, I think we'll take one more question and end the session. Non-verbal communication is mostly unstructured, right? And the last one for today. Effective oral communication demands what? Self-confidence, long pauses, consistent practice, business-like approach, knowing the audience, and aggressive questioning. Effective oral communication. So basically, the characteristics of a good speaker. D. Right? Yeah, I think the answer has to be D only. Okay. So it's 8:04. Let's end today's session. Tomorrow, please join. Just a moment.